bank that was chartered by the U.S. government?
Yeah, I don't think that the Bank of the U.S. has the right to establish individual banks in separate states and attempt to replace the function of the state banks.
Maybe we should impose a tax on all the notes of banks not chartered in Maryland.
Yeah, for every $5 note will be upon the stamp of 10 cents. $10, 20 cents, $20, 30 cents, $50, 50 cents, and $100 will have a stamp of $1.
Bothers me.
What?
I hate, nay, despise that the state of Maryland is taxing all the banks that belong to the federal government and prohibiting banknotes that don't have a stamp.
That sounds like the Stamp Act.
Well, I believe that the taxation is unconstitutional.
Well, maybe you should take it to the Supreme Court.
No, I just won't pay these outrageous taxes. I have no interest in paying them.
This McCulloch guy refuses to pay his taxes.
Oh, really?
Yes, and the federal government is getting on my nerves.
Oh, wow. Do you still strongly believe that the federal bank is unconstitutional?
Yes, and the Constitution does not state that the federal government is authorized to charter a bank.
Well, do something about it.
I will. I'm going to sue McCulloch.
Welcome to the Supreme Court. On this date, February 22nd, 1819, we shall hear the arguments of two entities and determine who holds a stronger position in today's case. Today's hearing will be the individual James McCulloch versus the state of Maryland. Will Mr. McCulloch please make his argument?
Good evening. I'm here today because the state of Maryland has imposed a tax on all banknotes issued from the federal government's bank branch in Maryland. I am a cashier at the bank, and I do not believe that such taxation is fair. Furthermore, the court in the state of Maryland, ruled by the Constitution, does not authorize the government to charter a bank, which somehow makes their taxation acceptable. It's my firm belief that such taxation is unconstitutional, thus I must come to make a sound, justified decision.
Thank you. Will the state of Maryland please make your argument?
Good evening. We are here today because we stand in firm opposition to the bank originally created. Our first convention is that the Bank of the United States, in of itself, is unconstitutional. Furthermore, although this bank in Maryland is controlled by private holders, it holds the money of the federal government. We despise the Bank of the United States, not only because it is a competitor against our very own state banks, but also because it holds a more privileged position, which we believe is unfair. It is because of these reasons that we decided to place a tax on the bank, because our very own state banks have begun to fail during the depression of the last few months. We decided to impose a tax on any banks within our state that was not chartered by the state. Unfortunately, this meant we had to impose a tax on the Bank of the United States of Maryland.
With all due respect, Your Honor, the arguments of your state are ridiculous. Where do they get their right to interfere with the operations of the federal government? They say that the Constitution doesn't allow for the creation of a bank, but where does it allow for the state entities to act on federal actions?
We are a sovereign state, and thus we retain the right to authority of business and tax institutions inside of our borders. Plus, if the federal government can regulate state banks, why cannot state governments regulate federal banks? Please, Your Honor, consider how illogical Mr. McCulloch is being.
All right, men, calm. The court has listened to the arguments presented and will make a decision which the court deems is justified and proper. You are dismissed.
I would like to pass a motion in favor of McCulloch on the issue of imposed taxes on Maryland's Second National U.S. Bank. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
In a unanimous vote, the imposed taxes shall not be passed. The court delegates the ability to tax and spend, and the bank is proper and suitable for such to occur. Maryland has no power to interfere with the bank's operation by taxing it.
On this day, March 6, 1819, the court revealed the decision in the matter of McCulloch versus the state of Maryland, in the matter regarding the constitutionality of the Second Bank of the United States, as well as the ability to tax the Baltimore branch of said bank. On a unanimous 7-0 decision, the court rules in favor of Mr. James McCulloch. He is not required to pay the tax, and the tax imposed by the state of Maryland is unconstitutional. The court further rules that the Bank of the United States itself is indeed constitutional. In regards to the power of Congress to charter a bank in the state of Maryland, the court refers to the necessary and proper clause located in Section 8, Article 1 of the U.S. Constitution. This section explicitly grants Congress certain enumerated powers, which include the ability to collect taxes and regulate interstate commerce. The creation of the bank is related to its powers to perform these operations, making the bank constitutional. The second matter is that of the tax imposed on the bank by the state. The court has bestowed on this subject its most deliberate consideration. The result is a conviction that the states have no power, taxation or otherwise, to retard, impede, burden, or in any manner control the operations of the constitutional laws enacted by the Congress to carry into execution the powers vested in the central government. This is, we think, the unavoidable consequences of that supremacy which the Constitution has declared. Turning to the Supremacy Clause in Article 6 of the Constitution, it's clear that laws of the U.S. supersede those of the state. Maryland's taxes have been deemed as unconstitutional, undermining the superior laws of the United States. The Bank of the United States is declared constitutional, as is its branch in Maryland. The taxes on the bank are constitutional and must be lifted immediately. Good day, men. You are adjourned.
Well, I rode that ribbon highway. I saw above me the endless skyway. I saw below me the golden valley. Well, this land was made for you and me. I roamed and rambled. I followed my footsteps through the sparkling sands of her diamond deserts, and all around me a voice was calling. It said this land was made for you and me. Well, this land is your land, this land is my land. From California